Peace, peace, peace. It's me, Furious Black. Today I wanted to switch gears a little bit and get into Kabbalah. The mystic ancient Israel science of the universe. This is applying the hermetic principles. This is applying it. How to apply it by using your mind. Let's take a look.
Because there is such a thing as a teaching lineage within Kabbalah, and what we are going to speak about is authentic Kabbalah. And we're going to give you a perspective, not of scholars, but of practitioners, people who are Kabbalists. And in this series, you'll get not only an overview of authentic Kabbalah, but also the keys, the basic concepts, the ways of approaching this wisdom so that it can open to you. Because it is a way of study, a way of thinking, and a way of feeling very different from our normal sense of things. And it requires, as any skill does, a mastery of the basics. And in our series of 20 or so lessons, we will cover all of the ones that are important for you to know. But let's start with an overview of Kabbalah, because there's a great deal of confusion about it.
So, I was amongst the Israelites for a long time, and they condemn every book under the sun that isn't the Bible or doesn't confirm the Bible in their perspective. By studying this, I learned that, the truth stays the same, but the lie changes. So names, places, they may change a little, or the name of places may change, but the reality of what is being said is the same.
There's a lot of information about Kabbalah out there. There are, I think, maybe 1,000 books a year are published on the subject, and almost none of them have anything to do at all with Kabbalah. They're just some kind of a mishmash of people's imaginations of what they think it could be, what it should be, their intuition, their imagination, and it's not their fault. There's a great longing to know what Kabbalah actually is, because there is a sensation that it's important, that it's powerful, and that it has a grasp of something that is hidden in this world. It's called a hidden science for 3 reasons. 1, it has been purposely hidden by the practitioners of Kabbalah themselves, by the Kabbalists. Kabbalah,
People always talk about the fallen angels. But have we really assessed this term fallen angels or falling away? Have we really assessed that or determined what that really alludes to? Like, what are they really talking about when they say fallen angels? Where did they go? They fell and they went into hell. They fell and they came on the earth. They fell and they're on the earth. When they fell, what happened? Did they keep the knowledge that they had? Did they retain it? Or did they lose it? I think there's a movie by Nicolas Cage where I think he sleeps with a woman and then he loses his God power. What is the fallen? What does it mean?
Kabbalah started 4,000 years ago with Abraham, around the year 1947, 1948, before the Common Era. And for that period of time, 2,000 years until the beginning of the Common Era, the destruction of the Second Temple, it was not hidden. It was widely taught. You know the stories of
It was not widely taught. if you read the scriptures, you see that Israel fell away way before Christ came. They wasn't observing the law. Just read Jeremiah. They was following after Baal or Baal because they wanted to be like the other nations. That's what the other nations was doing. That's what they were gonna do. They wasn't following God anymore. So this was only given to the remnant, those that were diligent enough to want to know.
Of Abraham sitting in the door of his tent and welcoming travelers to come and he would show his hospitality. Well, what he was actually doing was he was feeding them and he was teaching them about the wisdom of Kabbalah. And
a little history about Abraham. You got to read the book of Jasher. Is it the book of Jasher? Yeah, it's the book of Jasher. Abraham was taught by Noah and Shem. So
the type of souls that lived at that time in this world were a little bit more refined than the souls that live now, and they understood it more naturally. But something occurred at the beginning of the Common Era, at the destruction of the temple, that made it impossible for people of that generation and for the 2,000 years that followed to really understand anything in Kabbalah. That's the point at which religions appeared. That's the point at which speculation about how this world works, what the universe is, what the creator is, and so on, grew up in the imaginations of people according to a particular principle that leapt to the forefront within the human being in their development. And this quality within people prevented them from understanding. And so the Kabbalists hid it. So if you don't have access to something, you still have the books. The problem is that it's also called a hidden wisdom because the books themselves are written in a very special language, unbeknownst to the people who are reading them. All the books of Kabbalah are written in a language called language of branches, in which they use words from our world, objects, cup, book, table, family, travels, wars, all of these things that you see in the 5 books of Moses and all the other Kabbalistic books, but they're not speaking of anything in this world. Not a single word of any Kabbalistic book is referring to anything in this world. It only refers to the forces above which create and sustain the things that appear in this world. And
so he's talking about this. He may not have associated it with this, right? He may not have associated it with this. The hermetic principle of mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, gender. These are all things that you cannot see right away. But if you sit and watch, you will see the correspondence between the trees and water. You see the vibration between trees and water. You see the polarity between trees and water. You will see the rhythm between the trees and the water. You will see the cause and effect between the trees and the water. You will see the gender of the trees and the water, right? They have these principles.
And so the Kabbalists used a special language that would indicate that what they were really speaking about. And only a student who had attained a certain wisdom would be able to understand and hear it that way. Now, you have to understand that the world that we live in is not a world of causes. It's a world of outcomes. There is nothing that we do in this world that has any effect whatsoever on the upper world where our source comes from, where the things that we see in this world take their roots. No physical action has any effect on it. And that's why any of the things that we do in order to solve our problems here in this world have any effect whatsoever on their outcome.
So remember, he came out with this in 2011. I'm sure if you was to talk to him now, he would understand the cause and effect, which I just brought out, and he said they have no correlation, which is untrue because everything that we do affects the outcome of the future.
Outcome. Only a connection to the roots, to the causal level of things, can have any effect whatsoever. And this is what Kabbalah deals with.
Right. You see what I'm saying? So if you're dealing with the root, so if you're talking to somebody that's brainwashed, you can't talk to them about the things that they're brainwashed about. You have to first de-brainwash them. That's the cause. So that you can effectively show them the effects.
Our reality as a whole is structured in such a way that there is a world that exists above, so to speak, and a world that exists below. And the language of branches points to what exists in the world below. It speaks about this object, let's say a family. You read about it in the Torah, and the Torah appears to be the story of the Jewish people. Well, a family will move to a location called a land. But the Kabbalists are not speaking about this at all. They're speaking about the abstract forces above that actually create these things and make them occur. And only a wise student can understand what's really going on here. This is the branch level, and this is the root level. So, unless a person learns how to read and understand the key to this language called language of branches, they will continue to see things as they exist in this world. So, as a result of those two aspects of hiddenness of Kabbalah, and because of a lack of contact with the teaching lineage and the real methodology, people have still needed to know, but they've had to fantasize, they've had to make concoctions of things, and they've gone according to what they could understand without a correct teaching and without the proper inner properties that would allow them to understand it. And so a lot of myths have grown up. Now we will deal with these in a little more detail when we talk about some of the other basic concepts of Kabbalah, but just a couple of the major ones are that that Kabbalah is Jewish mysticism. Well, it is neither a religion nor is it mysticism. Kabbalah predates religion. Religion is a phenomenon of disconnection from the upper force, of speculation.
Think about it. Religion is, oh, God loves me. God's there sitting in the throne. God wants me to do good, you know. Or God is affecting my life. Why does God take good people? Why does God not allow me to keep a good job? We take all accountability away from ourselves.
And a misunderstanding of Kabbalah, even though it has a formal similarity with it. Because the Kabbalists created halacha, they created the books that we study and consider to be holy books, and our traditions and so on come from them, but the purpose, the meaning of them, what the books are actually written for and what they speak about, we are not very well in touch with these things. So the relationship with Judaism is like Kabbalah and amnesia. Now, as far as mysticism goes, Kabbalah is a science. It is not a mysticism. It's a way of making a direct connection with things that seem to us magical and unfathomable only because we, in our current state of awareness, don't understand how they work. And it's the same as if you brought a lighter to some tribe that lived on a desert island that had never seen any technology at all. You would be the god of fire, some mystical creature that can produce fire out of your hand. I mean, it's simply a matter of what is hidden and what is revealed. That it's magic. Well, magic implies the using of hidden upper forces in order to manipulate people to get what you want and to cause certain outcomes for your benefit or against other people and so.
So you have to understand, right? For generations, these people have hidden away the true information of how we are connected to this place. Our connection to plants, we breathe in what they breathe out. Some we drink the same thing that trees, plants, animals drink, water. We are supposed to be vegetarians, only eating from the herb yielding plant, meaning we're not killing anything to eat. We're just taking from what it can provide, right? When a woman has a child, she's not supposed to die. She's supposed to birth something new that will allow her DNA to thrive or live on. It's the same thing with plants, animals, that life is gone.
So on. But it's impossible to make any contact with the upper forces at all unless a person changes their moral inner nature. The attainment.
All right, so now he's about to get into the accountability part, right? Acknowledging these things is the accountability part. Okay.
Within Kabbalah is a matter of inner transformation, and it is impossible to be in contact with the forces without that. So this simply has nothing to do with anything except somebody's vivid imagination.
So what he's saying is you have to be righteous, in alignment with the Most High, in order to see the true aspect of the world, right?
That only a few people are allowed to study Kabbalah, and there are conditions. The conditions being you have to be Jewish. This is not so, because the Kabbalists all along taught people who were not Jewish by birth. Some of the greatest Kabbalists, in fact, were Gentiles, people of other nations. Onkelos, Rabbi Akiva. The list goes on, and all Kabbalists took students who were worthy students, but not based on some kind of physical attribute, but on an inner attribute that is called Yehud or Yehud. And we'll explain that later. That you have to have you have to have mastered preliminary wisdom, Gemara, Mishnah, and so on before you can study Kabbalah well. If you don't understand what's written in Torah or Gemara, then you're not going to understand Kabbalah either. So it's not that you need these preliminary wisdoms, it's that if you cannot find spirituality in these preliminary wisdoms, you must move to books that talk directly about spirituality in a way that they can't be mistaken for things of this world, like the language in which the Torah is written or the language of stories, Agada, and so on. And amulets and protection and the use of number and letter manipulations in order to create stuff and to protect people from evil. Well, this...
So that's what you're talking about, the gematria, that people are now using numbers to figure out the universe. Yes, you could figure stuff out with gematria, but that's not the totality of God or of the universe. I like to use God and the universe interchangeably because it's a lot.
Is the complete and total opposite of what Kabbalah deals with. In fact, it's completely forbidden. It's considered idolatry that one should use the upper forces for some selfish personal reason here. And besides that, there is nothing to be protected from. So holy water, amulets, red strings, and so on are psychological things, and they have absolutely nothing to do with Kabbalah. And finally, there's the mixture of Kabbalah with Eastern religions.
Tokens, right? Like crystals, talismans, like rituals, putting candles, the pentagram, all this stuff, right? It don't actually work. It's for the mind to comprehend what it's about to do. I hope I explained that right. They don't really work. It's really you and what your intentions are that is doing what is about to happen based off of your talisman or your rituals, right? Christmas means nothing. Passover means nothing. These are rituals that binds groups of people, right? The bond between shared experience is only for the mind. It's only to connect you to others and things. It's really not those things doing anything. It's you. It's your mind. Your intentions.
Where, since we didn't know anything, we made an association with Buddhism or with aspects of Hinduism that deal openly with spirituality, and that's only because spirituality from the books of the Kabbalists were not open. However, that's changed. As of 1995, all books of the Kabbalah were open. The only requirement for Kabbalah to be accepted as a student and to feel and that you should feel safe and comfortable in looking at Kabbalah and seeking the thing that you need. The only requirement for becoming a student of Kabbalah is that you have a need for it. That your answers as to why things happen and to the meaning of your life and your role in it, if these things cannot be answered anywhere else, that's the requirement. And all the great Kabbalists have said so. From the time of the Arion, he said the only requirement was this desire. Rav Kook, who was himself a great Kabbalist, and even the chief rabbi of Jerusalem, when he was asked who can study Kabbalah, he said everyone. So it's not so. And finally, my favorite is that if you study Kabbalah, you'll go mad. It's my favorite because it's like everything else, it's just the way that things appear. The kinds of interchanges that a person goes through as a result of attainment in Kabbalah, of the understanding and connection with reality. The pleasure that they get, the source of the pleasure that they get, is very different from a normal way of thinking. It's opposite because it is the kind of thought that exists in the spiritual world. So to somebody who has an opposite goal from spirituality, a person may appear insane. But not really. So the third reason that the Kabbalah is called a hidden science is because it deals with what is hidden from our five senses. It answers a question that can't be answered any other way. It answers basically what is the meaning of life. And this is a deep and a severe question, because for a person who has this question, who cannot find the answer in what their traditions tell them, in what their science tells them, in what art and literature tells them, in what psychology tells them, a person who simply cannot be satisfied with anything but the answer to this question, what is the meaning of my life? This is a person who is ready to sense beyond the five senses. The books of Kabbalah tell us that we live in the whole of reality. There is a totality of reality, and that's where we actually exist. Except that we have no sense of that. We have a completely restricted sense of what we are and where we are. So much so that we don't know what will happen in the next moment of our lives. We do not know why things happen, when they happen, where we came from, where we are, and where we're going. There exists a complete and total reality. And this reality is divided and reduced into a system called worlds. By means of 5 worlds, the complete reality an unending light, becomes reduced to a brightness by which we can perceive.
You get what he's saying?
This first world is called the world of Adam Kadmon. The next world is Atzilut. The next is Beria.
So these are levels of awareness that you can tap in above your mind. Because, some people, for some reason, people don't understand this, but your consciousness and your thoughts, it's not in your brain. Consciousness is outside of us, and we tap into it. It's the same thing as when you know somebody's about to call you. Like, oh, I'm about to call, and then they're calling you, right? Or you have this eerie feeling something's about to go down, and you're a little bit afraid, or you're cautious. That's because consciousness is outside of us. Thoughts come and go, right? From the consciousness, right? So the higher levels of awareness that you go above your head, which this might sound crazy to people, but the level of awareness that you reach when you're reaching these levels above your head to infinity gives you a new awareness and a new way of looking at things. And also knowing the hermetic principles and the 10 commandments, you can see what is positive and negative, and this will determine how you move or dictate what your next thing you might say.
Then the world of Yetzirah, then Asiya. You can think of these as levels of consciousness, closeness or distance as it descends from this complete reality, from connection and awareness to it, until finally we reach a disconnecting point called Mahsom, or the barrier.
And the barrier is your awareness of those levels above your head. I hope I'm making sense to you. Even if I'm not, as we go through these episodes, you'll see it clearer and clearer. I also have the Zohar, which I study all the time, because that's the key to the scriptures, the hermetic principles, the Emerald Tablets, the Nag Hammadi, the Kabbalah, the Book of Jasher, Lost Book of Enki, Uma Elish. Like, these are keys to these books.
These are spiritual worlds. And below this barrier is our world. Here, we have absolutely no sensation of the spiritual worlds, of the place that we actually live and where we came from. Here, we have limited sensations that are called corporal or physical.
The five senses. I've watched this video years ago, but because I studied it, I understand where he's going.
This complete light and whole of reality, by which, if we knew this and was connected with it, we would be able to direct our destiny. We would stop making mistakes. We would understand the forces that guide us. We would become connected with them to such a degree that we would be able to live life in its fullest and for the benefit of all life. And yet, just as Kabbalah itself has been hidden from us, so has this force, this complete reality, been purposely hidden from us, reduced through these levels by a system of 125 steps.
Jacob's ladder. You know, I see people talking about the Anunnaki and the gods and all this stuff. It's like, listen, man, this is where the fall is. When you live in these five consciousness, you know, you start at the bottom and you move your way up until you're into the highest level of consciousness. And there's certain ways to open these key consciousness awareness levels that you have to do certain things within your life in order to hit these things, because one of the key things is bestowal, doing for others without needing something to be done for you, right? A tree doesn't need you to water it. It's gonna rain, but it's gonna give you fruit. It's bestowing nourishment upon you for free.
Into this world. What Kabbalah is meant for is to allow a person to...
All right, so first, you remember they say the sixth sense, all right? You have those five: hearing, taste, touch, seeing, right? I think, yeah. If you only rely on those, you're not able to assume the sixth and seventh and eighth sense of awareness, right? Sense of awareness is the people around you. Who's trying to do harm? Who's not? Who's good? Who's not? Right? And I'm not talking about that phony, oh, this person don't like me type shit. I'm talking about, yo, this person is really evil. Right?
Trace their steps from descent into this world back through 125 steps all the way to our root in the spiritual world, our source and connection with the total of reality.
And that is light. See, remember when Christ was saying that God is within, that God is not anywhere else but within you? This is what he's referring to. This is what he's going back to. You have to see, studying scripture isn't just, you know, for shits and giggles, where you just out here and you just saying, oh, I love God and I do things for God, and you don't do nothing for nobody else. And you just study for yourself just so that you can tell somebody that they're wrong. You know, that's not what this is about. And if you think it is, you're sadly mistaken. Because look, the rest of the world acts like this. China acts like this. Oh, I know best. You follow me. This is communism. Right? I posted in the video yesterday. People without the law, which I'm giving you, the hermetic principles, the 10 commandments, the Kabbalah, people without the law, righteousness, don't exhibit righteousness. They will curse you out. They will lie. They will steal. They will cheat. They will kill. You understand? Scripture says the law isn't made for the righteous. It's made for those that don't want to do righteously.
But in order for us to be able to achieve that, this benevolent force, which we call the Creator, has purposely created a system for us. In other words, this map of creation is not the end of creation, it's the halfway point. It's a process by which we descended from our roots in the spiritual world to the state that we're in now in order to fulfill the plan of the creation itself, in order to rejoin this total of reality. All of the books of Kabbalah, including our Torah, Mishnah, and Gemara, speak only about the states that are found at these levels, both of the reduction, as our soul fell from this complete connection, and
This took 10,000 years to debase God. Took 10,000 years to make us base form level carbon beings. Took 10,000 years. Had to strip all knowledge from the people and give them darkness. No law, no rhyme or reason. This is just life, and we rule it.
of the states that we find on the ascent back up. And the method of Kabbalah is the means by which a person can begin to sense and enter the spiritual world. Now,
So, they all talk about, spirit is breathing techniques and yoga, and spirit is this and that. No, 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 no. The spirit is the mind. The spirit is the mind. It's nothing else. The mind and the spirit are one and the same. You have the left hemisphere and you have the right hemisphere. These two hemispheres can work simultaneously, opposite of each other, and they can work together. Tomorrow I might go over a video of when they took the brain and took the piece that connect the two and cut it. They cut it. They took the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere and they cut it. I'll watch that video tomorrow and I'll show you that video and what the left hemisphere does and the right hemisphere. This gives you a outlook of how your brain actually works. I'm not going to go into it right now, but this gives you a clear indication of how the brain works. It's very interesting. So, I'll pick up on this next week around this time, and you will pick up with me at this time. If you like what I'm doing, subscribe, share, and learn, because that's the key. Knowledge shall be the stability of thy times. So with that, peace.